Chapter 1. Promises of Love. Emily had always been a romantic at heart. Growing up in a small town, she had dreamed of finding a love so genuine it would make her feel whole. When she met Alex, a talented architect in the bustling city where she'd moved to start her new life as a freelance designer, she thought her dreams had finally come true. Alex was kind, gentle, and had a way of making her feel like she was the only person who mattered in a crowded room. They'd met through friends, and their connection had been instant, one that turned quickly into a love she couldn't have imagined. After a year of dating, Alex proposed to Emily with promises that melted her heart. He told her he would always cherish her, that he would stand by her side no matter what life threw at them. He whispered how he saw a future filled with love, laughter, and endless support. Emily, feeling like she was on top of the world, said yes without hesitation. She believed in every word he said and trusted him with her heart completely. They were married in a small, intimate ceremony with just a few close friends. The perfect day for the start of their perfect life together, or so she thought. For a time, things were blissful. Emily loved how supportive Alex was of her dreams. They would spend weekends talking about their goals, dreaming about their future children, and planning trips they would take together someday. Every day she felt more secure in his love. She felt lucky, as if she'd found the one person who was truly meant for her. But beneath the happiness, a shadow of doubt sometimes crossed her mind. Alex was an attractive man, someone who people naturally noticed. She knew she wasn't the jealous type, yet there was something unsettling about the way he charmed people so easily. She tried to ignore these feelings, focusing instead on the love they shared. To her, Alex was not only her husband, but her best friend, the one person she could rely on completely. For Emily, life felt like it was falling into place. She was finally living her dream with the man who had promised her everything. Chapter 2. The Beautiful Cousin. A few months into their marriage, Emily's younger cousin Lily reached out to her with a request. Lily was a university student from their hometown, studying marketing, and she had recently received an internship opportunity in the same city where Emily and Alex lived. Lily asked if she could stay with them for a few months while she settled into the new job. Emily felt a wave of happiness and nostalgia, remembering the times she and Lily had spent together as children. They had grown up close, sharing secrets and dreams, and Emily had always felt protective of her charming, beautiful cousin. When Lily arrived, her presence lit up the apartment. She had grown into a confident, vivacious young woman with a natural beauty that turned heads. Her wide, sparkling eyes and effortless smile often drew people in. With her bright laughter and easygoing nature, she quickly became a lively part of their home. As Lily shared stories of her college adventures and career ambitions, Emily felt proud of her cousin. However, a small part of her couldn't help but notice Alex's reaction whenever Lily was around. At first, it was nothing significant, just casual conversation and friendly smiles. But soon, Emily began to pick up on little things that bothered her. Alex started paying extra attention to his appearance, wearing shirts she hadn't seen him wear in a while, styling his hair with more care than usual. She noticed that he often laughed louder and more easily around Lily, making playful jokes, and sometimes even teasing her in ways that felt too familiar. It was as if a spark of excitement had entered his life, and Emily was left feeling like an outsider. One evening, while they were all sitting in the living room, Emily couldn't ignore the way Alex and Lily were chatting and laughing together. They shared inside jokes, and the comfortable ease between them stung in a way Emily hadn't anticipated. She told herself that she was overthinking things, that this was just her imagination running wild. She knew that Alex loved her, and she trusted Lily. Still, an uneasy feeling crept into her heart, a strange mixture of jealousy and fear. One night, as she lay in bed with Alex asleep beside her, Emily found herself staring at the ceiling, replaying scenes from the past weeks. She remembered the way Alex's eyes had lingered on Lily when she walked into the room, the playful smile he gave her when she made him laugh. These small moments seemed harmless on their own, but together they painted a picture she didn't want to face. She pushed the thoughts aside, telling herself she was being unfair and that she had no reason to doubt either of them. but the doubts persisted, quietly gnawing at her peace of mind. In the mornings, she would catch herself studying Alex's expressions and listening carefully to the tone of his laughter around Lily. Despite her efforts to act normally, she felt as if an invisible wall was starting to form between her and Alex, something she couldn't understand, but sensed was growing stronger each day. She tried to hide her unease, but inside, her heart was heavy, and her once clear trust had turned murky. Emily knew she needed to talk to Alex about her feelings, but she worried about sounding paranoid or insecure. She had never imagined she'd feel this way, especially about her own cousin. Yet, a part of her sensed that ignoring these feelings could lead to an even greater pain she wasn't prepared to face. Chapter 3. A Strange Change. As the days passed, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Alex seemed different, more energetic, more enthusiastic. It wasn't just in his mood, but in the way he started paying attention to every small detail of his appearance. He began taking extra time to get ready each morning, carefully ironing his shirts, fixing his hair, and even wearing cologne again. Emily tried to dismiss it, but the sinking feeling in her chest wouldn't go away. One Saturday morning, as they were preparing breakfast, Emily noticed how Alex and Lily shared a private moment, laughing together by the counter. From across the room, Emily felt like an outsider in her own home, watching Alex's eyes soften as he looked at Lily, while Lily responded with a flirtatious smile. It was as if they shared a secret world that excluded her. That afternoon, Emily tried to talk to Alex, mentioning that she felt uncomfortable with how close he and Lily seemed. He dismissed her concerns with a slight laugh, calling her silly, and insisting that Lily was like a sister to him. His words stung, and the dismissive tone in his voice was one she hadn't heard before. It left her feeling like she was the one at fault. But the changes didn't stop. Alex started inviting Lily out with him more frequently, and Emily felt a deep pang of jealousy each time they left together. The moments she once shared with him now felt like they belonged to someone else, and despite her attempts to reassure herself, the evidence of his growing affection for Lily seemed undeniable. Desperate for advice, Emily confided in her friend Sarah. Sarah listened patiently, then simply said, "Emily, trust your instincts. You're not the jealous type. If something feels wrong, maybe it is." Her words gave Emily a strange sense of relief and fear. Part of her wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, but a deeper part knew she couldn't ignore her feelings anymore. One night, as she lay beside Alex, Emily felt a distance she'd never known before. The man who once promised her a lifetime of loyalty seemed like a stranger now. As she stared into the darkness, a quiet sense of betrayal grew within her, and she knew something had to change. Chapter 4. The Neighbor's Secret. Emily's mind continued to race with doubts and fears, each one eating away at her peace. She tried to dismiss them, telling herself she was simply overreacting. Yet her intuition kept nudging her, refusing to be ignored. One afternoon, as she was returning from the grocery store, she ran into her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, an older woman who often shared friendly small talk and neighborhood news. Mrs. Thompson had always been warm and observant, and today her usual smile was replaced with a look of concern. "Emily, dear," she began cautiously, her voice low as if sharing a secret. "I don't mean to intrude, but there's something I feel you should know." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She nodded, signaling Mrs. Thompson to continue, even though a part of her wasn't sure she wanted to hear it. "I was out watering my plants yesterday evening," Mrs. Thompson continued, "and, well, I saw something through your living room window." She paused, looking at Emily with sympathy. "I saw Alex and Lily together, laughing and, well, they looked quite close, dear. Almost too close." Emily's stomach twisted painfully as Mrs. Thompson's words settled over her. She felt a chill run through her as the older woman described the scene she'd witnessed. Alex leaning in, his arm casually draped around Lily, both of them laughing in a way that seemed far too intimate. Mrs. Thompson's words were gentle, but the weight of what she'd said hit Emily like a tidal wave. "I didn't want to assume anything," Mrs. Thompson added softly, "but it looked like they were more than just family. I thought you should know, in case you hadn't seen it." Emily forced a shaky smile, thanking Mrs. Thompson for her honesty. She tried to appear calm, but her mind was spinning with anger, hurt, and confusion. She barely remembered the rest of her conversation as she made her way back to her apartment, feeling as though she were floating in a nightmare. The image of Alex with Lily burned into her mind, each detail fueling her sense of betrayal. As she closed the door behind her, Emily leaned against it, her heart pounding. Her hands clenched tightly around her grocery bags, her knuckles white. She could no longer dismiss her suspicions as mere jealousy or insecurity. There was something real happening here, something she needed to uncover for herself. The pain in her chest felt overwhelming, but beneath it was a determination she hadn't known she had. She would no longer ignore the signs or pretend that everything was okay. If there was a truth to be found, she would find it. Her love for Alex had blinded her once, but she wouldn't let it keep her in the dark any longer. Chapter 5. The Secret Camera Plan. Emily sat in her dimly lit living room, her mind racing. Mrs. Thompson's words haunted her, the scene she described playing over and over in Emily's head. The image of Alex and Lily, together, laughing and too close, was enough to shatter her fragile hope that this was all a misunderstanding. Every detail she'd tried to dismiss suddenly felt painfully clear. The warmth she'd once felt in her own home now seemed tainted by betrayal, and the place she had once called her sanctuary felt like a stranger's house. As she sat there, her heart ached with a familiar mix of anger and pain. But now, something else burned beneath the surface: determination. If her fears were real, if Alex and Lily were truly betraying her, then she needed proof. She couldn't continue in this limbo of doubt and pain, second-guessing herself at every turn. She needed the truth, no matter how much it hurt. After hours of wrestling with the decision, Emily went online and ordered a set of small, discreet cameras. She felt guilty as she clicked "Purchase," but a part of her knew that this was her only way forward. If there was nothing to hide, she would only see normal moments. But if her suspicions were true, she took a deep breath, preparing herself for whatever she might find. When the package arrived a few days later, Emily felt a chill as she opened it. The cameras were small and easy to hide, just as she had hoped. Carefully, she placed them in different areas of the apartment: the living room, the kitchen, the hallway, and even one in the bathroom. Her hands shook as she set each one in place, her heart pounding with both fear and anticipation. The cameras seemed to be staring back at her, as if they knew the weight of the secrets they were about to capture. As the days went by, Emily avoided watching the footage. She told herself she needed to be strong, but every time she thought about opening the recordings, an icy fear ran through her. What if the truth was more painful than she could handle? What if, after everything, her worst fears were confirmed? The idea of actually seeing Alex betray her in her own home, in the spaces they had once filled with love and laughter, felt unbearable. She went about her days in a haze, pretending that everything was normal, yet every glance from Alex felt heavier. His smile, once so familiar, now seemed tainted by her suspicions. She couldn't bear to look at Lily, whose presence filled her with a mix of anger and confusion. There were moments when Emily wanted to confront them both, to demand answers. But without proof, she knew they would dismiss her again, laugh off her pain as if it were a silly misunderstanding. One evening, after hours of sitting alone in her room, Emily couldn't take it any longer. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone and opened the first video file. She closed her eyes, steeling herself, then pressed play. The screen lit up with a scene from her living room. The footage was simple, just Alex sitting on the couch, reading a magazine. Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her, thinking perhaps this had all been in her mind. But as she clicked through the videos, her relief quickly faded. In the kitchen, she saw Alex and Lily laughing together, standing far too close. In another clip, she caught a moment that made her heart sink. Alex gently brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face, his hand lingering just a moment too long. The tenderness in his eyes, the softness in his touch, was unmistakable. She paused the video, her fingers trembling as she tried to steady her breath. The proof she'd sought, The truth she dreaded was right in front of her. With each clip she watched, her heart broke a little more. The love she had once felt, the trust she had cherished, now lay in pieces. Emily had once thought she knew Alex, that their love was unbreakable. But as she sat there, the truth staring back at her from her phone, she realized that the life she thought she'd built was nothing but a lie. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her broken heart, but also a new resolve rising within her. This betrayal would not destroy her. It would make her stronger. Chapter 6. Camera Discovery. Emily tried to keep up the facade of normalcy, hiding her heartbreak beneath a calm mask. But inside, she was crumbling, each day becoming harder to endure. She knew she needed to confront Alex and Lily eventually, but she wasn't ready. She wanted to gather her strength, to find the right moment. Then, unexpectedly, everything came crashing down in a single night. It was a quiet evening, and Emily was in her room when she suddenly heard a piercing scream echoing from the bathroom. Startled, she rushed toward the noise, only to find Lily standing outside the bathroom door, her face pale and eyes wide with panic. Alex, too, came rushing in, looking alarmed as he tried to comfort Lily. "What happened?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. Lily pointed a trembling finger back into the bathroom. There's a camera in here," she cried, her voice shaking with horror. "It's hidden above the water heater, just there." Her face twisted in disgust and fear. "Someone has been spying on me, recording me, while I was showering." Alex's face drained of color as he looked toward the hidden camera, his expression shifting from shock to anger. "Who would do something like this?" he said, his voice tight. He turned to Emily, his eyes filled with accusation and confusion. "Emily, did you know about this?" Emily's heart pounded, but she forced herself to remain calm. She looked at them both, faking an expression of innocent surprise. "A camera? I had no idea," she replied, letting the words hang in the air. "Why would anyone need a camera in the bathroom? Unless..." She paused, giving Alex and Lily a pointed look, watching as they squirmed under her gaze. Lily burst out, her voice filled with desperation. "Emily, you have to help me. What if someone has been watching me, recording everything?" She seemed on the verge of tears, clutching Alex's arm for support. Alex wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close as he reassured her, his voice soft but firm. "Don't worry," he said, his tone protective. "I'll call the police. They'll get to the bottom of this. Maybe it was a maintenance worker or someone trying to invade our privacy." He glanced back at Emily, a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. "But this is serious, Emily. We need answers." Emily looked between them, watching their fear and confusion, both of them oblivious to her own truth. She held back the urge to confront them, her heart aching as she witnessed the twisted irony of it all. Here they were, terrified of being exposed, while she silently carried the weight of their betrayal. As Alex and Lily continued to panic, Emily felt a strange sense of control. She had once felt powerless, crushed beneath the weight of her own doubts. But now, with the truth in her hands, she felt oddly calm. She watched their frantic reactions, feeling her own resolve harden. Soon, they would know the real reason for those cameras, and they would understand the pain of being watched, judged, and ultimately, betrayed. Chapter 7. The Painful Confrontation. The next morning, Emily woke with one purpose: to confront Alex and Lily. She could no longer pretend. The night before, she'd watched them panic over the hidden cameras, and though she had wanted to reveal the truth right then, she held back until she was fully ready. She found them in the living room, both tense and quiet, still haunted by the events of the night before. Gathering her courage, Emily entered and closed the door firmly behind her. Alex and Lily looked up, fear and guilt plain on their faces. "Let's talk," Emily said, her gaze piercing. Alex tried to speak first, his tone defensive. "Emily, if this is about the camera, we'll report it and—" "No," she cut him off, her voice steady. "I put those cameras there. I needed to know what was happening in my own home." A stunned silence followed. Alex's face turned pale, and Lily's hands clutched the edge of the couch. Emily continued, her voice breaking only slightly. "I trusted you, Alex. You promised me love and loyalty. And you, she said, turning to Lily, you were like family to me. And this is how you repay me? Emily, please, Lily whispered, her voice trembling, but Emily held up a hand, stopping her. I saw everything, she said coldly. Don't tell me it was innocent. She could feel the tears building, but kept them in check. This was her moment for truth, not tears. Alex's face hardened defensively. Emily, you're overreacting. Yes, we got close, but it wasn't serious. Overreacting? Emily's voice filled with disbelief. This is my marriage, my life, and you treated it like a game. She felt her anger boiling up but forced herself to remain calm. Taking a deep breath, she steadied her hands. You both took something from me I can never get back. My trust, my peace. But I won't let it destroy me. She turned to the door, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Though her heart was broken, a newfound strength rose within her, ready to rebuild her life, no matter the pain ahead. Chapter 8. The Price of Betrayal. As Emily walked away from Alex and Lily, a sense of finality washed over her. Her heart felt bruised, heavy, as if it were carrying the weight of 1,000 broken promises. But for the first time in weeks, she felt clarity. She had faced the truth and spoken the words she had needed to say. Now, the painful path ahead was hers alone, and that realization brought an odd kind of relief. No more doubts, no more questioning herself. The worst had already happened, and she had survived it. Later that evening, as she packed a small bag to stay with a friend, Alex knocked gently on the door, his face shadowed with guilt and regret. Emily, please, can we talk? I know I've hurt you. I've been so foolish, and I'm truly sorry, he said, his voice a low, pained whisper. Emily looked at him, her once beloved husband, who now felt like a stranger. Part of her wanted to believe his words, to think that maybe this was all a nightmare she could wake up from. But she knew, deep down, that nothing he said could erase the betrayal or the ache it had left in her heart. Alex, she said, her voice calm but firm. I don't think you understand what you've done. This wasn't just a mistake. You betrayed our marriage, our trust. You put my love and loyalty aside like it was nothing. And for what? Her voice cracked slightly, but she held his gaze, refusing to let her pain silence her truth. He took a step closer, his hands reaching out as if to comfort her, but she stepped back, crossing her arms. I know I can't change what happened, he murmured, his voice filled with desperation. But please, give me a chance to make things right. We can go to counseling. We can try again. I love you, Emily. I do. She shook her head, a sad smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Love? She whispered, almost to herself. Alex, love is a choice. Every day, we choose who we stay loyal to, who we protect, and who we cherish. You made your choice, and it wasn't me. Tears filled his eyes as he realized the weight of her words. She watched him struggle with the truth, his face contorted with the pain of losing her, yet still unable to truly grasp what he had destroyed. In that moment, she saw him not as her husband, but as a man who had thrown away something precious without understanding its worth. Just then, Lily entered the room, her face pale and filled with anxiety. She glanced at Alex, then at Emily, her eyes searching for some kind of forgiveness. Emily, I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice trembling. I never meant for this to happen. I don't even know how it got this far. Emily looked at her cousin, her former friend, and felt a wave of sorrow mixed with pity. Lily, you both made your choices, she said softly. You can have each other if that's what you want, but don't come to me for forgiveness. Not now. She took a deep breath, willing herself to stay strong. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope it was worth everything you destroyed. Lily's face crumpled, and she looked away, unable to meet Emily's eyes. Alex tried to say something, but Emily raised a hand, silencing him. This marriage is over, Alex, she said firmly. I'll contact a lawyer, and we'll settle everything. You and Lily are free to be together, but I'm done. I deserve better than this. Her voice was steady, but her heart ached as the words left her lips. She hadn't imagined ending her marriage like this, but she knew that holding on to a lie would only bring her more pain. Emily left the room, closing the door softly behind her, feeling a strange mix of sadness and liberation. As she stepped outside into the night, the cool air wrapped around her like a gentle embrace. She felt the finality of her decision settle into her bones, and though the path ahead was uncertain, she knew it would be one she walked with her head held high. In that quiet moment, under the starlit sky, she made a promise to herself, a vow to never again settle for half-hearted love or broken promises. The road to healing would be long, but she knew she had the strength to walk it alone. Chapter 9. Rebirth. In the months following the divorce, Emily felt like a shadow of her former self, but slowly, day by day, she began to rebuild. The heartbreak had left her raw, fragile, yet beneath it all, a determination began to bloom. She poured her energy into healing, into rediscovering who she was before betrayal had shattered her trust. At first, it was simple things: a morning walk, a quiet cup of coffee in her favorite cafe, moments where she didn't have to think of Alex or the memories they'd shared. With each day, she felt herself regaining pieces she thought she'd lost forever. Emily decided to focus on her career, diving deeper into her work as a designer. She took on new clients, challenged herself creatively, and found a renewed sense of purpose. Late nights were no longer filled with loneliness, but with ambition and dreams of the future. The more she worked, the more she realized her own strength, her resilience. She'd thought love was her anchor, but now she discovered a newfound independence, a confidence that was entirely her own. Outside of work, Emily dedicated time to self-care, transforming her life in ways she'd never had the courage to do before. She started exercising, learning new skills, and even enrolled in cooking classes. She met new friends who inspired her, people who reminded her that life held more beauty and kindness than she'd once believed. Emily also allowed herself to forgive, letting go of the bitterness that had weighed on her heart. It wasn't easy, but as the months passed, she began to release the pain Alex and Lily had caused, knowing it was the only way to truly move forward. One day, as she looked in the mirror, Emily hardly recognized herself. The sadness in her eyes had faded, replaced by a quiet strength, a sense of peace. She had weathered the storm, and though scars remained, they no longer defined her. Emily realized that she had reclaimed her life, her heart, and her spirit. She was no longer broken. She was whole again, a new version of herself, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever the future held. Chapter 10. The Sweet Revenge. 4 years after the painful end of her marriage, Emily found herself on a sunny afternoon, strolling through a nearby park with her husband David and their young son Noah. David, a gentle and caring man, had shown her a kind of love she hadn't known before, one based on trust, respect, and joy. With him, she'd discovered what true companionship felt like, and their family was a daily reminder of the happiness she'd once thought was out of reach. As they wandered through the park, Noah ran ahead, laughing as he chased after birds. Emily watched him with a soft smile, feeling a warmth that only motherhood could bring. Just then, she caught sight of a familiar figure sitting alone on a nearby bench. Alex, her ex-husband. His face was tired, worn, as if life had taken a toll on him. He looked up, and their eyes met. For a brief moment, surprise flickered in his gaze, followed by an emotion Emily hadn't expected: regret. Months earlier, Emily had heard through family members that Alex and Lily had married shortly after their affair was exposed, but the marriage had not lasted. Rumors whispered of constant arguments, jealousy, and mistrust. Their relationship, built on betrayal, crumbled quickly, leaving both of them alone and bitter. As Emily looked at Alex now, she saw all of that pain etched on his face, the consequences of their choices. But instead of satisfaction, she felt a calm sense of closure. She lifted her chin, feeling the confidence that years of healing had built. She didn't have to say a word. She saw the realization in Alex's eyes as he looked from her to David, who held her hand proudly, and finally to little Noah. She saw the sadness in his face, the bitter knowledge of everything he'd lost. This was her moment, her quiet revenge, Yet there was no bitterness in her heart, only peace. With a gentle smile, Emily turned and walked away with her family, leaving Alex behind in the park, a mere memory from a life she'd left far behind.